Recording in progress. I'll resume recording. Hey, thank you so much for your time, Mark.
Yep.
My name is Matt Manukua. I'm from Pacific Media Network
Hmm.
News here in Aotearoa. Yeah, we'll just get a have a little bit of a chat about this epic voyage that you guys are going
Hmm.
on. So it's a blessing, and I see that you guys are in Alaska at the moment. So we'll just talk a little bit about
Yes.
that as well. But yeah, no, I'll just firstly get you to introduce yourself, your name, where you're from, and your role with the Wananuiakea voyage.
Okay. Aloha. My name is Mark Kalaiona Mauna Hui Hui Ellis. I'm from the island of Oahu in a valley called Nu'uanu. Um, for this leg of the voyage, I'm currently serving in the role as captain.
Awesome. And um, right now, you guys are in Alaska, preparing
Mhm.
on the first leg of the journey. So could you talk a little bit about that and how that's been? I've seen you guys engage with the indigenous communities over in Alaska, and yeah, could you just let us know a little bit about
Yeah, so we started up in Alaska. Our global launch was in Juneau earlier this month. And we've engaged with multiple communities along the way. A lot of it has been the beginning portion was to honor some of the individuals that donated or assisted us in receiving logs for one of our canoes. And so we honored them, but also engaged with the communities. And the engagement was cultural engagement, a lot of music, dancing, their traditional dances, as well as food. So we got to share a lot of their traditional dishes. And in each village, they shared with us something about their village, and they took us out into the community and shared what they're most proud about, whether it's fishing to harvesting shrubbery and medicine to actually today we went to the old settlement where the ancestors lived before moving to where they're currently located.
that. Wow. Yeah, wow. And for people that don't know the indigenous heritage of indigenous history of Alaska, how important has it been for this type of voyage to engage with them?
Yeah, so for the Alaskan natives, they've gone through a lot. They've been here for over 10,000 years on this land, and we hear multiple stories from them. A couple of the stories talk about the Great Flood, that their people were here during the Great Flood, and they would point out the mountaintops where their peoples would go to. They also shared with us about how their people traveled to Hawaii and beyond on their canoes. And they talk about their people going to this place in the south where the sands were warm, where things were tropical, and then learning about navigation, star navigation, and coming back up to Alaska. And so those engagements were really cool. What also is really interesting is that they also shared with us how Hōkūle coming to their communities actually really enlightened their communities. It got their youth involved as well as the elders involved to bring back the dances and the songs. And so while they were preparing to for us to arrive and they would do the arrival ceremony, a lot of the younger generation, they didn't know the dances or the songs. So it allowed the elders to actually engage with them and teach them. And they're like, a lot of them were just constantly saying, thank you, because for Hōkūle coming, it allowed them that space and that opportunity to teach their dances. And it's really enlightening the community and making sure that the culture lives and
Mm.
is strong.
Oh, definitely. Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And coming back to the purpose of the this voyage. Could you speak a little bit about that, about the background, and obviously with this Alaska trip, it sounds like similar to your guys' purpose of passing the knowledge on to the younger generation. So yeah.
Yeah, so the Moana Nui Akea voyage is a 4-year voyage that will take us around the Pacific. We're starting here in Alaska, and we're going from Alaska and then working our way down south and then coming across into the Pacific, visiting the South Pacific Islands, Aotearoa being one of them, and then also heading up into Asia. Why are we doing this? We're doing this to bring light uh, about the world's oceans and how important it is to protect our oceans and our lands, and how important it is for families and those values that we have. And so those are some of the things that were, sorry, just a snippet popped up on my computer screen. But those are purposes, those are those common goals and those purposes for us as we voyage. We don't just voyage for ourselves, but we voyage for the future generations. We also just don't voyage for ourselves to gain knowledge, but sharing that knowledge. And what we're hoping to do is be a catalyst or a light on these communities so that we can help lift their stories and lift them up and share that indigenous knowledge to the world. That is one of the ways, or might be the way, that we save this planet or this island Earth that we have.
Yeah, wow, that's beautiful. And speaking of the crew and all those that are embarking on this journey with you, how was that selected in terms of how did they it's a large crew, it's a large crew of people, but how did that process come about, and who's involved with the operations?
Yeah, so we have several canoes in Hawaii, and as everyone knows, things require work on them. We must maintain our canoes. They're always on the water. And so we do a lot of dry dock and a lot of service. And from people volunteering and doing those service, that's where we get our crew. So it's a lot of the individuals that are helping maintain the canoes. They're the ones that are becoming the crew. Now, when we go into selection, we have about just under 40 different roles that we must fill on the canoe. And so we're looking at individuals that have different skill sets, whether they've been trained up to be a captain or a watch captain, or if they're trained up to be a doctor, or if they have the skills to be a cook, a quartermaster, someone that's taking care of our electronics, someone that has carpentry skills that we need on board, someone that's a lifesaver, like a lifeguard that can help us with those things. And so we look at the pool, everyone that's done a lot of community service for the canoe. And then we also look at those skill sets that we need to fill.
Oh, awesome. And just my last few questions for you, while I have you. So, with Hōkūle is such a historic, canoe, and the voyage from back in the 70s up until now, it's got a rich history. And when I first learned it, I remember that I was humbled because that is part of our Pacific, our heritage, but I was also, intrigued. So, how important is it for people around the world, for our Pacific people around the world, to acknowledge this waka and this journey?
Yeah, so I think it's very important that people acknowledge Hōkūle. I think it's more overwhelming for the crew itself. We're traveling on Hōkūle, and many times we get into this routine that, oh, this is the canoe that we work on, and this is what we do. But then we come into these communities, and people are like, I watched you guys go around the world, or I've watched you since 1975. We had a person that came in Juneau, and she said, I got this medallion in 1976 when the canoe was launched and went down to Tahiti. I've been following Hōkūle ever since. And this, I'm so glad and so happy that you guys are here. And then that she can now share it with her grandchildren.
Wow.
That she shared these stories about Hōkūle, and now the canoe is in Alaska, of all places,
Yep.
and that's where her and her family ended up. And now she's sharing these stories. It's amazing that Hokulea, what it brings to the communities, that people come out and engage with the canoe. And sometimes people know nothing about the canoe. They come and they don't know anything about the canoe, but they're just intrigued by what is this, you know, vessel coming into our port? What is this? And then once we start sharing with them about the importance of the revitalization of wayfinding within Polynesia, especially, then their eyes start opening and they start visiting our website, hokule.com, or our social media sites. And then they really start going, wow, this is something really special. This isn't like this thing that comes and goes, but this is a rare opportunity for the community.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And just my another question that I had for you. Obviously, Matariki is coming up for our Aotearoa indigenous community. Is the Hokulea crew doing anything to celebrate the new year of our Māori, our brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything specific, but definitely I think we will be doing something to celebrate that. I know we celebrate, on the northern side, right? In our time when we celebrate when Makali'i
Yeah,
rises.
yeah.
But I'm not sure if anything is specifically, but definitely I'll communicate that to our leadership, and then we can look into that and do something special to that coincides with you guys.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful. And lastly, for anyone that would want to follow your guys' journey, how would be the best way for them to follow this?
Yeah, the best way to follow us is on hokulea.com. There's a tracking map. And so you can go to it right now, hokulea.com, and you'll see a tracking map. On the back of the canoe, we have a beacon,
Wow.
and every 15 minutes, it gets updated. So you know exactly where the canoe is.
Mm.
Connected to that, you'll get the stories, you'll get education materials. So if you're a teacher and you wanted to engage your class with the voyage, we have materials out there for you to use. And then also using social media. So we're on all the different social media platforms. Our our tag is, or I shouldn't say our handle is Hokulea Crew. So Hōkūle crew on the social media platforms.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. I'll just stop recording there.